So, welcome, and let's turn this on to a normal image here. So, we're just going to use this. This is just a demo image today. And so, one of the things when creating multiple exposures that is helpful, and multiple exposures can mean anything. Basically, that you're taking an image and you're adding a different image or another version of the same image to your original image, and it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 files. It doesn't matter. And there's the problem with it is you can't show somebody exactly how to do it because every image is different and every situation is different. So how you blend those or put those together is different. So today I'm going to go over just the basics of blending modes and what they are. They are absolutely very helpful actually when blending multiple images together. And the examples I have today are just like basic textures. So how to make it easy to blend those textures together without going through some like massive and complex selecting methods. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is kind of go over this and show you how the main blending modes work. So I have this image and I've created this layer here, and notice we have black, 50% gray, and white. Those are important things to remember because they are really key in the basic blending modes. So your blending modes are right here under normal, and we have all these. All right. The key ones you're going to find are kind of darken, multiply, lighten and screen, overlay, soft light, and linear light. Then you have these other ones that do some funky things, and they're very specific. But the main ones are going to be these here, and these up here. So I'm going to go over how those work. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just hit dissolve so we can see what happens, and we can see nothing's happening with dissolve. But if you go to darken, notice it gets rid of the gray and the white but keeps the black under darken. All right. So and under 50% gray, it also affected the image. So in darken, we have an effect on the image, as well as it did not get rid of the black, but it did get rid of the white. See, we can see here there's still the gray, and up here the gray affected the image in a specific way. Multiply is getting rid of the white and applying the 50% gray. All right, so right here where it's white, multiply didn't do anything, but the 50% gray, it made that area darker, and black it is not affecting at all. All right, it's keeping that. So we will go down to lighten. And lighten is kind of doing the opposite of what darken does, and screen is going to do the opposite of what the multiply did. So in this fact that white is still there, it is lightening the 50% gray, and it's not affecting the black at all. So when blending, it's important to think about that stuff because depending what your image is, it can make it really easy to mask out a certain section. So the last one that we're going to go to is overlay here. And so notice in overlay, 50% gray had no effect, but the white area was applied and the dark area was applied to that image. So it darkened this area and it lightened that area. But 50% gray had no effect. So we can try soft light, which is kind of the same version of what we just did, just less effect, Then here, hard light and linear light all work the same. So if you want to go through quickly to toggle through all the different modes or blending modes, you're gonna first need to make sure up here you're on the move tool, and then you're gonna hold down the Alt Option key on a Mac and Shift, and then use plus or minus, and it will toggle through, and you'll get some really funky effects in some of these, and they take a long time to understand what they actually do. So that is blending modes. So first thing we're going to do is then we're going to come up here to this next one. I'm going to turn this texture on. So notice when I shot this texture, and I'll enhance it, I'm going to hit Command M. I'm going to really make my whites whiter and my blacks blacker. Alright. And by changing the blending mode, I can affect what we see. So if I come up here and hit multiply, notice it's keeping all the blacks, but it's letting the background image here show through. So if I go down to screen, we're going to get the opposite. The black goes away, but we keep the white. So in this case, we're adding this texture to our image. I can lower the opacity, so if I wanted to look like it was a scratched up image, we could easily add this texture. Now you can always add a mask, and then take your brush, and just like anything, paint into the mask. So if I want to get rid of the crack over the eye, we'll increase our opacity. I can easily paint that out just like I can on any mask. Alright, so this next one I have is a texture, but notice in this texture it is a lot of white, right? It's very subtle. So what I'm going to do is actually flatten this out. Just brighten it up, flatten it out. Now we're going to come down here to darken. So we can see here it's keeping, but it's doing some like funky stuff and it looks weird. So we're going to go to multiply. So the multiply is keeping the areas where they're darker than the underlying color. So a little bit hard to explain. So these areas that are dark on the image, if they are darker than what is on the layer below, which is the horse, you're seeing it. If it is lighter, the light areas we're not seeing. So we have a different effect on this image than we did with screen. We're getting more texture and we're seeing this tree bark. So we will go down here to lighten, and so we're getting kind of this funky effect. We can see that's not really working for us. So we'll go to screen, and so screen is doing the opposite of what our multiply was doing. So we're having a much different effect with screen than we do with multiply. And there's no right or wrong way to do any of this stuff. It just depends what you want to do with that image. So quickly, I will hold the Alt Option key down and Shift, and I will click on this and hit plus. Oops, got to go up here to the Move tool. Hit plus and toggle through so you can see the different blending modes affecting this image completely different. Luminosity is one. This one here is one I use a lot, but not for this type of situation. All right, so we will come back up here to this texture. So once again, we have that really dark and really light texture. And so when I am looking for these, I'm looking for not only the texture, but I am also looking for that strong contrast a lot of times because it makes it easy to drop one section out. So actually I'm going to go straight down to overlay on this one. So we can see we're getting a really strong effect on this image using overlay. If I come up and use screen, we're having a completely different effect. And if I go to multiply, we're having an even more different effect. And so if we go to darken, we're going to get something a little bit different. And it really just depends on the blending modes on how it applies your image. So until you start to understand how the blending modes work, it makes it difficult to shoot a texture in a specific way sometimes to get it to blend with your image. But once you start to pick up on it, it will make more sense. So it's a lot of playing with it, but I would have to say a lot of times when I'm adding textures or layering textures to an image, I'm not using masks as much as I am using blending modes to blend those images together. So hopefully learned a little bit about blending modes today. The best way to learn how to use something like this is to play around with it. And then once you kind of figure stuff out, it will start to make more sense to you. So thanks for watching.